And action.
Doot. It is episode 100. I guess we can call this revision B of Dots, Lines, and Destinations. Thursday, January 21st, 2016. Today's line is Minneapolis, Tokyo, Narita possibly going away. Today's destination is Porto, because that's where we're at. And the dot for today is Clark Air Force Base in the Philippines.
I'm very impressed how you managed to take a dots, lines, and destination
and screw it up.
Completely screw up.
Should I start over?
No, I think we just go with it.
Okay, sounds good to me.
And action.
This is episode 100, revision C at this point. It's Thursday, January 21st, 2016. Dots, lines, and destinations. And our dot today is Clark Air Force Base in the Philippines. And our line is Minneapolis, Tokyo. The destination is Porto, because that's where we're at, guys. The full crew today.
Live from Porto. It's Saturday night.
It's Seth, Foz, Rolo, and Steven, yeah.
And we got a live studio audience.
Yeah, we do. We have a live studio audience, a guest who will probably chime in every now and then on the show.
He will have questions.
He'll have questions.
Let's be real. He's here to heckle.
He wants to know about credit cards. He told us today in our great lunch. He has credit card questions.
And we did have a really good lunch, didn't we? At Taylor Port?
The Taylor Floodgate Port house. I guess we're going to do this destination first a little bit.
Yeah, I think we should talk about the destination a little bit.
Did some great port tastings this afternoon, and up on the hill, it was steep to get up there. I read one review, it's like, oh, there's a steep hill, and we started walking, like, oh, this isn't so bad, and like halfway up, you're like, oh, shit.
We turned the corner, and we're like,
halfway up, like every 30 feet, you turn a corner and be like, is this it? Is this it?
And it got worse.
Our actual in-studio guest was the first to make it up the hill, and he turned around, and he shook his head like, no.
That wasn't worth it.
But I have to admit, I'm sort of a Taylor Floodgate Port
You a fan?
aficionado.
Okay.
Many years ago, I bought a bunch of bottles of some of the vintage stuff. I'm a huge fan of their product, so definitely biased going into it. But separate from that, the view from up on the hill looking down onto the river and just, even if you don't go to the restaurant, there's a patio outside that you can take your tasting out with you if you want. There's some serious quality views out there. And the food was delicious, but that was really, really nice.
My real complaint is that neither Google Maps nor Apple Maps gives you anything but altitude.
During the walk, you think the blue line should get green as it goes up the hill?
Because we could have avoided the walk up had we known.
Yeah.
Because we wouldn't have taken the cable car.
No, because I looked at the cable car. I guess we would have walked further, but without the hill.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we looked at it, and without the hill, it was also claiming that it was a 30-minute walk, but it was actually 10. So I don't know. Both of them suck. Navigation, but anyways.
If you use Peach to navigate, like I do, it told me to go direct without any hills.
Sponsored by his investors.
On an A380 on your way back from Baton Rouge?
Yes.
We're here in Port. This is our yearly trip that we take as friends.
8 years?
8 years we've done it, yeah.
The Ocho. This is the Ocho.
The Ocho. We chose Port. I'm not really sure why we chose Porto.
Nobody will tell me.
Do you know why we chose Porto? Because they have Port. Yeah.
Our guests are in studio.
He chimes in.
I think that's a very reasonable and astute observation. I actually don't know why either. I feel like this was one where no one actually picked a destination. And someone's like, what about that place? And
we said, okay.
It was the first one, and no one really objected to it. And then I bought a ticket. I was like, well, I'm going. Or someone bought tickets. It's like, I guess that's where we're going to be.
Yep.
It's the first time we've done a place relatively warm.
Yeah.
Above zero.
Yeah.
Was it supposed to be warm?
Salzburg was above zero.
It was cold, though, in Salzburg.
Let's say medium.
It was cold.
Not relative to...
It's relative to everywhere else we've been.
Relative to Stockholm.
Stockholm was brutal because of the wind.
Vilnius.
Salzburg...
I've been walking around without a jacket. I'm in a t-shirt right now. I've been walking around without a jacket on.
Salzburg was like that at one point. It was warm enough...
It did warm up.
It was warm enough where some people almost went in the river.
Yes. But that was a different issue.
Wearing an apron.
So it was the first time for me really to have decent port. And Taylor was okay. Not my favorite. It was good, but it wasn't great.
Do you prefer the Kopke?
I did, I think. The Kopke 1983, I think, is what we had.
Yep.
And that was really good. I think that was my favorite out of what we tasted today. We tasted some on another show. We'll have kind of outtakes from that that you can download.
It's more of a tasting show.
Yeah, you're going to want to take that one in small bites.
Or be as drunk as we were. Or as I was, anyways.
But it's been fun. We walked around quite a bit today.
The downtown area, it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site, right? The neighborhood we've been in, sort of south of, I don't know, where the rail line is and whatnot.
Yep. So rail.
So real? Is that how you said?
So rail? South of the rail?
South of the rail.
It's a lovely town.
It is. And spanning the river, both sides of it, and it's steep.
Very steep.
Good luck with that. Bring your calves.
Stephen, you brought up a good point that there's really no convenient area to stay. Like we're at the Intercontinental now, which is sort of convenient, but you're at the Sheraton. But to walk down the hill and then up the hill is by the river.
You're talking about a good 15, 20-minute walk at least,
Right.
and it's uphill coming back. Well, I'm just saying, like, if you're thinking about staying somewhere, like you were talking about that hotel down by the river,
Right.
Isn't actually, hang on, we're staying by Rollo's apartment, apparently.
We actually are in New Jersey.
I think that hotel that we saw down by the river is probably the most convenient to...
Yeah, there's a bunch of little independent hotels down
convenient
there.
to what, though? To the
If you're
river?
going to be a tourist and be like on the waterfront and walking over to the port houses,
But why not stay across at the Yeti Mentor
The Yenta Hotel?
Yeah. Whatever. It was right by that's in the heart of the Port Valley.
Yeatman.
Yeatman House.
I wouldn't say the Yeatman because it's the hike back up that hill. It's next to Taylor.
Okay.
Right? So the hike back up that hill to get there is a pain in the ass. Plus, you're not near any of the restaurants and bars and all the stuff that's on this side of the river.
Yeah, it just doesn't. It's not a convenient. There's no city center, I guess. There's no central place for where everything's going on. So it seems like it's very
I
kind
think
of.
down on the river on this side would be that central place.
But I think up where we are is more central because all the restaurants seem to be up the hill from
Yeah,
there.
like up here. I mean, we're
Yes,
going.
we did dinner last night up here.
Yeah, so
well, you guys, your concierge told you to go out to like the fancy restaurant / club places.
Kind of up this way a little
Up
bit.
this way?
Yeah, a little bit further to the south, but similar way.
south is
no,
the river.
sorry, west.
Okay.
So west, we take a left out of the hotel and be
Right.
in the area that he was saying. But to me, it seemed kind of like a disjointed place. Like the Sheraton's in a very business district.
Yeah, the Sheraton definitely is. But I'm staying at the Mercure City Center, which is a 5-minute walk, admittedly up a steep hill, but a 5-minute walk from the Intercontinental.
But that's also convenient because that street that you're on, it's a big shopping street.
Big shopping street,
There's
there's a
like
tram right
music.
there.
There's like some sort of musical theater by you. I mean,
Yeah,
that's also the city center.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. The walk, the furthest we've had to walk at any given point in time is about 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I think that means we're in the city center the whole time.
Right.
There's not like one building that says this is like a landmark that you have to be at, but I think 20-minute walk end
Yeah.
to end is a pretty tightly confined city.
I think what I noticed was that the public transit options are limited for someone who's wanting to get around somewhere quickly. I think bus, if you want to get around, bus is clearly the way to go because there's bus stops everywhere. But if you're trying to use the train, it's not nearly as convenient because you have to walk quite a ways to get to it.
Yeah, and because I think it also with the sort of steep valley and the river, the trains are sort of up on the hilltops.
Yeah, they don't go down.
They don't come down in here really, and they're built for the commuters in the sort of non-tourist part of the city.
Suburbs.
Right? There's not even suburbs, but there's like, if you say that this tourist section right along the river is the city center, right? It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site, so it can't be touched. So like, there's a lot of things going on there. If you were to go a ring out, and you've got on the other side of the river, Gaia, whatever, Gaia, that neighborhood, and there's stuff out there, and there's some trains out there. If you go on this side, like north of where we are, there's 5 train lines. There is actually a massive, relative for a city this size, a massive transit system. Certainly by any U.S.
But it's for commuters.
There's a lot of
for the
regional,
locals.
like suburban trains.
It's suburban trains and just sort of in and around the business part of town, not the tourist part of town. I think that's the difference.
And that's kind of where we're staying at the Sheraton. Is definitely, they've told us it was the business side. There's a Crown Plaza up there and a couple other hotels. And the train station's 10 minutes away. But it's not close to coming here. So for us, it was easier to take an Uber to get.
Uber.
Yeah, Uber.
Except that some people have taken Uber and failed because the taxi drivers surrounded their car and wouldn't allow them to move.
Well, you were saying that the guy pulled up this morning and said, get in.
Yeah, he kind of was like, we have to go quickly because the taxi drivers are making signals with their hands.
Now, let me ask you guys a question. So this guy that was in the Uber, what would have happened if the cops came? Because Uber is allowed to operate.
It's operating
so what would have
legally. I don't
happened?
think anything would have happened. I think they
Do you
would
think
have.
they actually called the cops? I think they just were threatening.
I think they
Well,
were
what if you were in there? I mean, would you said, okay, call the cops, and would you have said,
Call the cops yourself and say I'm being attacked?
no? Would you have waited for the cops to arrive and see what happens, or would you have just gotten out of the car?
I wouldn't have gotten out of a car, that's for sure.
I'd be worried about getting out with the driver if you've got a mob scene going on. I feel like inside the car is probably safer until they start lighting your tires on fire, in which case being in the car is much less safe. So I don't know.
I probably wouldn't have gotten out unless they were doing something malicious to the car itself. I don't know. I mean, I've never been in that situation.
It seems like it's happening in a lot of cities, though. Like in Europe, especially Paris. I mean, they're just Ubers.
We got threatened a few times in Paris. Like people were like, "Oh, you have to take a cab." That was kind of like the thing. Like guys in cabs were standing outside of their cars and going, "Oh no, you need to take a cab." And someone will pull up. They don't know it's an Uber, but they know that we're not taking a cab to go wherever we're going.
I wouldn't mind just taking cabs if the cabs weren't ripping people off. I mean, at the airport cab, my guy took the long way here.
It was 25 euros
surcharges.
probably.
No, it was like 30 euros.
30 euros.
He had all these surcharges, and like I know he took the long way because I was looking at the map. It's just like, and he was just like mad that I was going to this hotel. Like, where do you want me to go? Like, do you want to say, hey, take me to Lisbon? Like, he was like, So,
I mean, it's interesting, right? The whole Uber thing is they've had a monopoly for years, and they did not evolve their business practices.
Taxis?
Yeah. And now Uber's come along and really has shaken up the industry, and now these guys actually have to do something. And it's not, I mean, it's no different than any other industry that evolves.
Yeah.
But it's just the price we're paying.
Well, so with our guest, Steve, who's here,
he and I created Uber.
Yeah, right. He and I are both staying at the Sheraton, so we take an Uber here over this way, and we do the split fare in the app, and it's €5 to get over here. And it's a 15-minute drive. I mean, that's about almost what it was. It was a little bit more to get to the hotel from the airport.
Right.
But the taxi we were reading would have been €25.
Yeah.
Yeah, I ended up taking a taxi here, and it was about €20, and I think an Uber would have been half.
From across the river?
No, from the airport.
From the airport, yeah. And so I don't think they're offering, taxis aren't offering some special service besides the fact they're not harassing you for the privilege.
I struggle with this one. I use Uber every now and then.
Not in New York.
Not in New York because I think it's stupid in New York.
Unless it's during a shift change.
4 o'clock, yes. But that's also where Uber surge pricing goes batshit. So it's kind of, 6 of one, half dozen others. It's still going to take longer to get a car and you're going to pay more. But to and from the airport, so I am not taking the train, I just get a car because I have a car service.
It's $35, you know what it is or whatever.
No, 35 would be cheap, but they've gone up since then. But
no, taxis used to be 35, right?
From where?
From the airport. From
JFK.
It's 58 plus now, I think. They went up again.
Under the regular taxi?
Yeah, one way. I mean, whatever. It is what it is. But I think it's stupid in New York for a variety of reasons, mostly in that there's a plethora of taxis and other car services available. But in some cities, just getting a car to come to where you are is hard.
Yeah.
And so the fact that you can manage dispatch that way is very cool. Do I care if it's an Uber, a Lyft, the taxi company putting out an app, whatever? No. I don't give a shit as long as a car comes and picks me up when I'm ready to go.
So that was one of my things. Uber was illegal in Portland for a while, and so they weren't operating, but you could use a taxi app. I can't remember what it was called, Taxi Magic or something. Curb. Sorry, it was Curb. And I could call a cab using the app, and it was like using Uber because I could pay through it and everything. And I was fine with that. I would have been fine if Uber had never shown up. That would have been my go-to app. But now it's like, well, I have that or Uber, and Uber's much more convenient because it's usually cheaper.
Well, and the other thing
doesn't mean it's convenient. That means it's cheaper.
It's cheaper. Yeah, it's not convenient. I mean, it's the same convenience factor.
Sure.
The thing with the cab is that they may not show up. It's based on whether or not they want to come there.
But part of the thing with the Uber is, the drivers generally try to do a better service. The New York, they'll do.
I've had mixed experiences with that.
Yeah.
I haven't used much of it, so I can't.
I've also seen comments from riders like, if the driver doesn't give me a bottle of water and candy, they don't get a 5-star rating. So.
And that's the last thing I care about. A bottle of water's nice, but I want to make sure we're safe and
I want to be in a
clean car and doesn't, yeah.
And right, there are some cities where the taxis are absolutely abysmal and getting a clean car is impossible. And in theory, Uber helped solve that problem to some extent.
So this is kind of a joke, but I asked Steve the other day. Something that came up was I watched a movie where cell phones weren't invented yet. The movie was set in a time period where there was no cell phones, but they were cab drivers. We were in New York. I can't remember what it was called.
The Flintstones.
But the question came up: what did cab drivers do in New York City before they had cell phones?
They had CDs.
So they were just on their CB the entire time?
Oh, you mean who were they talking to?
Yeah, they would talk to the passenger more often than not in the old days.
In the old days.
You did talk to passengers also, but they had CBs for a while.
Right, but it was a very different...
The big whip antenna on top?
Here's my question.
But back then, there was also a very different type of taxi driver.
Who were they talking to?
That's what I want to know.
Is there
for 4 hours straight.
Conference call? Because I swear the other day... I swear...
No, is that too much?
That was a little much.
The other day, I swear that the guy had a speakerphone and I heard 2 different people. I feel like they go on a conference punch in their conference call and they're just on a call.
They secretly own a startup.
They're just on a conference call.
It's other cab drivers.
Yeah, why were there 3 people
on the call? WhatsApp chat.
No, you dial into the party line and you hang out and chit chat about whatever. It's office cooler or water cooler talk in the office. They just happen to all be in different places.
I was seriously wondering that.
It's illegal in New York for them to be on the phone even on a speaker or a headset.
Well, they are always on the phone.
They are, but
always. I have never had a cab driver in New York not be on the phone.
And then it's like when you think they're talking to you,
they're talking to someone on the phone.
Yeah, I'm like, what? The guy's like,
no.
He waves his hand.
You sit back there and be quiet.
And close the little plastic slide. What are we supposed to be talking about? So I'm pretty sure New York City taxis isn't on today's.
But it was because of the transportation. This city,
right.
You kind of need to take cabs. I mean, it's not easy, especially for an older person if they walking up these hills.
Well, and I think it's interesting here. I haven't
taken a cab, a metro, an Uber, or anything since I've been here.
But you're not an older person. I'm saying, let's say there was an older visitor. No, I'm saying if my mom was here, she would have a hard time with the hills.
Those hills are tough.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that the Uber drivers we've had here mostly aren't talkative. Like they're in Portland, they just want to have a chit chat with me, and that's the last thing I want to do is just chit chat with someone random. But here I think we've had one guy ask us, "Oh, you're here on vacation." The rest of them were just like, "Oh, is this the right place?" And then that's the end of the conversation.
Yeah,
which I appreciate.
My guy in Lisbon picked me up, was super polite, and again, they're having problems with the taxi driver, so he made me like go to the different part of the airport or whatever. But he was like, he actually started chatting, how long are you here for, your first time, this and that. Oh, it's your first time, what are you going to do? I said, I don't know. I haven't planned anything for Lisbon yet. He's like, and he gave me a list. I had to take out my phone and start writing down notes because he was talking so quickly of things to see and do. And I did some of them. He was was a little bit of sort of go by the playbook and these are the popular things to do. But had he not mentioned it, I probably wouldn't have gone to Sintra out on the coast. Probably would have been a good thing in some ways because I got rained on and it was disgusting weather. But, he was actually really fun and nice.
Yeah.
So, but I also had, not in New York, but in other cities, I had nice taxi drivers. I feel like one of the interesting things is the general demographic is a younger person driving for Uber, which also means they're more likely to speak English, which is useful to me.
Yep. I agree.
I will say that every
But I got screwed in Cairo by Uber, so,
Every Uber driver I speak to in New York just says that there's too many of them.
Yeah.
It's good for the consumer, but bad for them. And Uber takes so much out of it, it's not really worth it for them.
Yeah.
A lot of them are switching to Lyft because of that. But also, those guys in New York are all just car service drivers, right? They also have most of them have another dispatch.
Yeah. They have the sticker in there just for when they get the Uber call. Let's talk a little bit about our dot, Clark, which is in the Philippines.
Yep,
it's an Air Force.
It's basically the alternate airport at Manila.
Yep.
As opposed to
Nino Garcia.
Nino Acoy.
NINA or something.
MNL.
MNL, but it's like it has an abbreviation like NIAA.
So
MOUSC, is that what I'm saying?
Yes. Emirates will start flying there again.
We spoke about this in one
of our previous episodes. We talked about it.
It was funny because we were like,
"Where the hell is this place in my living?
Where is Clark?"
Tim Clark. That's why I figured it out because it's his last name.
Oh, he flies to all the Clark airports.
Yes, Clark, New Jersey, possibly coming soon.
Really? Wow, is that like a 3,000-foot runway?
There's not even an airport in Clark.
Well, they're building it now. They are building it now.
So it'll be ready soon.
So they're going to fly 777W, I think there.
I didn't pay that much.
It wouldn't surprise me if it was a W. And
two cabin though?
I think it's
not
two cabin.
LR?
Are the 300s?
No, they have the 200 LR.
They don't need an LR for that.
It's just smaller though.
Yeah.
And they don't have anywhere to fly the LRs.
San Francisco, LA.
I thought they were doing Clark as a triangle route. I feel like there's another.
They are.
What's the other stop, you think?
I'll tell you in a second.
Our producer is being useless right now. He's drinking wine. Unbelievable.
I know.
I'm producing. It's Portuguese wine that I'm producing.
It is cupcake. Yeah, I know. Now I feel like it's a little surprising to see them restarting a route they dropped so recently. But at the same time, fuel prices are back down. They're pulling a ton of migrant workers out of the Philippines and adding the extra capacity.
But they also fly to Manila, though.
Cebu. Cebu. So they're doing another Philippines.
Dubai, Cebu, Clark.
Oh, so the first stop is Cebu. Okay.
Is it Cebu or Cebu?
I have no idea. I know that's where everyone says to go in the Philippines.
It's not Cebu Express like in Newark.
Didn't they shut those down at Newark in exchange for the new OTG shops?
The non-cash.
Cebu is OTG.
That's right, you're right. I'm sorry. Cebu is the brand they use.
No cash accepted.
Yeah.
Which we ran into, which we can talk about later. Yeah, I have a real problem.
You and I couldn't get into it. I talked to the guys that run that place.
I
interviewed them.
SIBO or OTG?
OTG.
So I have mixed feelings. Steve brought up a good point. Our guest here, he pointed out, he's like, hey, look, get off the plane. Don't be judgmental when you first get off. Just walk around the terminal. I said, okay, I'll go into it with an open mind. We were in Newark C1, which is, it can be relatively crowded if it's a busy time. And it was pretty busy. It wasn't packed, but it was busy. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be with the moving walkways gone and stuff in the middle. It wasn't that bad.
That was my impression as well.
Some of the piers, though.
But
C1's okay, C2's terrible.
I even found C1, I found C1 to be annoying. I found the layout to be bad. The way that they've set up the food court, I thought that was annoying.
With the market?
It's just poorly marked. You don't know what to do. We ordered our food on the little iPad. We thought we were supposed to pay, and we're just standing there, and Foz is standing there going, aren't you going to pay? I'm like, what do you mean? You got to go over there. Oh, okay. And then there's another machine that's unmarked. I had no idea that's where I paid. So I think the layout is just bad. I think that it needs to be better signed. And it was unclear to me. Like, I ordered a Coca-Cola fountain drink, and no one got a fountain drink for me. I had to go to a bin. He was like, oh no, you just go pick it up from the bin. Well, it doesn't tell me that. I don't know. I thought that was another shop. So it's just, it's weird. It's a weird setup. That's all.
I haven't done the food court part. I did some of the sit-down restaurants.
Yeah.
Did you go over to C3?
We were in C3
Yeah, for the food court part.
Oh, okay. So on the way out to the food court, there's a beer hall, sort of Caps it's called. Did you look at their beer list?
Didn't look at the beer list, looked at the menu. It looked okay.
The menu's okay. The beer list is really good.
So our biggest...
I felt badly about, I think that, like, I think it's $7 or $8 for a Corona, which is $1 or $2 high even at airport prices. But they have, like, Omegang, some of the good Omegang stuff.
A local brew.
Which is upstate New York, but local enough. And and it was $11 or $12 for a pint, which isn't cheap, but it's like a $9 pint if you go to, or an $8 pint at Torquili's. Like, it's, so some of these places, which is one of the places I go drinking in Manhattan, like, the prices aren't completely unreasonable for the good stuff.
Yep.
For the swill, it was high.
And this is why United is increasing meal vouchers.
That's right. So this is another thing, right? The value of a meal voucher, if you get delayed or whatever, is going up because they recognize that a $7 voucher doesn't actually get you anything.
But the thing that really irked me at OTG is I've tried to keep a little bit of an open mind as far as the restaurants. And the last few times I've gone in, before I even sit down, I'm asked when my flight is, and I've been told multiple times that we can't serve you.
Because it takes so long.
Our
burger took 20 minutes.
But they seem to forget that this is an airport.
Yeah. So that's and I actually talked to them about that, right? So you either scan your board, it'll scan your boarding pass and read the PNR out of it, or because the data's in there, or you can just punch it in on the screen.
Which is also a questionable thing of what they're doing with the data.
Sure. I didn't ask. I don't care that much, but even if you just tap it in and whatever. There are some challenges there just because the shit takes time. And the way the kitchens are laid out, they're not all like just right there anymore. A lot of the stuff's in the back of house and like they run it out. So that makes it a little interesting from the preparation perspective. But they're also trying to cook like fresh food for you. So it's a tough trade-off.
I respect that. And all the restaurants I've sat in have the kitchens there.
Okay.
So it's not the ones where the escalators were.
Yeah.
These are actually where the restaurants were. But, I understand.
But 20 minutes, you got to be able to serve a meal.
Yeah, but it's taken consistently over half an hour to get meals. So 45 minutes is not much time.
Yeah. No, so while I was there, we were trying to get, in a strange sort of quirk of whatever, get a guy a sushi platter to go. And the only reason they were able to get it in under 20 minutes is we were there with the guy from the company who went to the waitress and said, go back and tell them to rush this. Got to go now. And,
Yeah, I mean, it seemed...
That's tough.
Like, and so the other thing that struck to me was, as we were going back to the flight where our gate was, I wanted to grab a bottle of water for the flight because, it's a long flight or whatever, and I want some water. And I didn't bring my water bottle with me. I looked for a place to buy a bottle of water. There was nowhere to buy a bottle of water in just like a little...
There was no like Hudson News type?
No, there was no Hudson.
Well, there's...
I had to go first. I would have had to go on to the C1 food court to get a water.
No.
Yeah. There's nothing in the hallway.
On C3?
C1.
There is, at the beginning of C1, there's a market.
Where?
Next to where the Oyster Bar used to be. It's called a Bruzo Market.
They actually have something there where you
can
buy?
They have a few waters in there.
Well, I didn't walk back. I kept walking thinking, I'd hit something. Like I used to hit a Hudson News right there at the split.
Yep.
And that's where I would buy my water, and it's not there anymore.
Yeah.
No, it's hundreds of bucks now.
Yeah.
So apparently our dot today is Newark, for those of you
Our rant. No, this is our rant, because we're just ranting.
We already talked about our dot.
My issue, I think one of the problems that they have is, at the Tuscan Steakhouse, I don't know what it's called, they could make your order quicker, but you have to absolutely order through the iPad. It takes longer because nobody knows how to use it. They make you pay before you order, so you waste about 10 to 15 minutes ordering and trying to figure out what you want before the order goes through and before you pay. So if they would just take your order, because there's a waiter, so it's not like they're getting rid of people. If there was a guy just taking your order and putting it in, you could cut that down to maybe 30 minutes where they could cook your food, have your food, and then charge you like they regularly do, or just say, hey, here you go, charge it on the iPad. But they could put it on the computer and then do it quickly. It'll still be in the same system.
But so that brings up an interesting thing. One of the things that irks me is there's really no service, yet they're charging you an 18% service charge by default.
They built it in, yeah.
Oh, really?
Yes. So, and they hide it.
Oh, that's right.
It's tucked away at the bottom, but it's very easy to miss. And if you order with a person, they automatically add that note.
You
to be the
can't
option.
order with a person. I was told, no, my friend he works for a union, and he goes, I will not order on the computer because this is taking away jobs. And he told the waiter, he goes, this is taking away your job. And the guy's like, I'm sorry. He goes, I want to talk to the manager. The manager's like, no, if you don't order through the machine, you can't order. So I had to order for him. I had to order for him.
Believe it or not, they've increased staffing with it.
I know, but that doesn't make any sense though, because they're not doing anything.
They have more employees now than they did before.
But doing what?
I don't know, but they do.
Clearly, they're not cooking the food any faster. They're not delivering it any faster.
I saw a lot of people standing around at the burger place.
Runners? I don't know. But they've hired more people.
And they make you close out your tab. So if I want another drink, I have to go through the order process again.
No, there's an option to keep a tab open now.
You sure?
Yeah.
You sure?
Come on, Bob's a big drinker.
Oh, yes.
He's running bar tabs left and right at Newark.
I heard he's buying drinks tonight.
Sweet.
No, it's free.
Coke for
All you
everybody.
can drink. Based on the email, all you can drink. All you can drink anything, even 1983 port.
So let's talk about our line. Minneapolis, Tokyo, rumored to go away by Delta. They're threatening to go away, I should say. They're threatening to kill it.
Is this to get Minneapolis to pay them to keep it alive?
No, this is because they don't want the U.S. government to open up Haneda to a much wider audience. Because if they shift more traffic to Haneda, it reduces the
value of their portfolio at
Narita.
But who? Japan?
Well, the U.S. and Japan are talking about opening up in Haneda.
Are you able to just add a Tokyo Narita flight anytime you want, or do you have to go through?
Narita's slot controlled just like Haneda, but
it's easier to get a Tokyo Narita.
Narita doesn't have the time limitations the same way Haneda does, and it's not limited to specific airlines. I don't think. It's just a matter of getting landing slot as opposed to getting one of the 4 specific routes that are permitted.
Haneda has actual slot time.
It's not specific slots because they've moved the slot destination.
But there's allocation for 4 flights from U.S. carriers.
Yes.
Whereas there's no limit at Narita, but you have to get a landing slot. And it's like Heathrow, it's restricted and maxed out.
And there is a curfew at Haneda, right?
There's a curfew at Narita.
I don't think there's one in Haneda because there's flights that take
At Haneda, it's U.S. flights are only allowed to arrive between 10 and midnight, and only allowed to leave between 1 and 5 or something like that. It's overnights only, basically, and maybe it's between midnight and 5 they can leave. And so a lot of the flights will go in, land just before midnight, and do a 2-hour turn and come out at 1 a.m.
Yeah.
Here's a question: does Emirates fly to Haneda and Narita? I know they definitely fly to Haneda.
I don't think they fly to. Do they fly to Haneda?
Yes. Definitely.
Lufthansa was pulling out of Narita because they moved everything to Haneda.
Not everything. I think Frankfurt was staying, but Munich was going.
But Munich was going back. Yeah, and
they fly both. They fly Frankfurt Haneda and Frankfurt Narita.
I thought Frankfurt Narita was going to be an Osaka tag flight or something like that.
Eventually, but I think right now they're flying both
for Lufthansa.
Yeah. So and going to basically every other country doesn't have the weird time slot restriction that the U.S. carriers have. And arguably it's good for certain types of flights, but they really only work from the West Coast. With that sort of almost midnight arrival, and the departure at 1 a.m. lands at 6 p.m. -1, which is bizarre. I love there's a -1 flight. You go back in time. But, that works on the West Coast, but going to New York, it's shitty times. The flight is 3 hours longer and it doesn't work right.
Yeah. That's true.
It's harder to get feed. Going to the West Coast, you can get feed at both ends of the East Coast. You can only get feed one way.
Well, AA dropped JFK Haneda for that reason.
Yeah.
Suspended.
No, they dropped it.
They lost the
route. Well, when you suspend a route to Haneda, you lose the authority because there's only 4 and the DOT takes it back.
Well, you have you can suspend it for 2 months or something.
Yeah.
But nothing.
Now, Seth, you made a comment that you were surprised that Minneapolis was such a Narita draw for.
Yeah,
You made a comment that it was you couldn't believe it was such a draw for Delta to fly Minneapolis, Tokyo.
With Detroit right there also, and I feel like Detroit's a bigger hub operation for Delta than Minneapolis, and maybe I'm wrong on that, but
it is.
To Asia.
Well,
I think you get a bigger feed locally and more connecting traffic.
Think of all the small regional cities they only serve from Minneapolis.
How many of those could there possibly be with people, and how many of those have people going to Tokyo or beyond on a regular basis?
But I think that
and beyond doesn't really exist because Delta doesn't have a partner at Narita to go onward.
But they do have some.
Actually,
don't they have a mini hub?
Yeah,
in
they
Narita?
have
but they've pulled a lot of that out, just like United did. Not as sharply as United did, but they don't fly onward to China.
No, China they've dropped, but they still have Singapore, they still have Hong Kong, and
Bangkok,
and they still have Bangkok.
Delta,
and they have
all places.
Guam.
Philippines.
All places
Manila.
you would probably still need to stop and somewhere to go get there from the U.S.
Sure, but I wonder how many of them are double connect versus single connect, or triple connect versus double connect.
Well, if you start in Fargo, you're going to have a double connection.
Sure, but Fargo's going to get to Detroit, I feel like. I don't know. Or Seattle at this point, right? If Delta's serious about Seattle, why don't you shift it?
Wait, Seattle, they have, 20-something destinations?
Sure.
They don't have many destinations. They have a bunch of flights, but not many destinations. And Seattle is a cluster in and of itself with the gate problem.
Sure.
But Minneapolis seems like it was never as busy. Like, Detroit was a packed airport. When I went to Detroit...
I like Minneapolis, both as a city. I worked there for a year and a half, 15 years ago, and really enjoyed it, except the part where it was fucking cold.
Minneapolis had a lot of O&D traffic for Tokyo back in the Northwest days, and they had 2 744s at one point.
Yeah, which is bizarre to me.
But it was all connecting traffic because the only think about it. Back then, all they served to Tokyo was Detroit, Minneapolis, Seattle, San Francisco, LA.
So only those 5 cities.
Yep.
Right. There's a lot of service.
Right, but LA, San Francisco, Seattle was all O&D.
Sure. So you routed the connecting traffic to Minneapolis or Detroit.
Yeah.
And
that was a day when this was before Continental had flights.
Sure, this was a long time ago. I get that, but it's strange to me to think, and I'm not saying it's wrong. It's just I'm having trouble comprehending and sort of wrapping my head around it that there was that much demand for traffic, either O&D or connecting flow over Minneapolis.
Well, go back a little further. Those used to be 742 routes.
Okay.
Where else could they fly? That was a hub, a 742 to Tokyo.
Sure.
And I think a lot of it was just legacy.
Yeah. And so from that context, though, it makes sense for Delta to say, we've got the Atlanta flight, we've got the JFK flight, we've got the Seattle flight.
Does Salt Lake?
No. Salt Lake, Tokyo?
Is it gone completely or seasonal?
No, it's not there.
Is there Portland?
There's Portland.
We've got Portland, we've got LA. And we got Detroit. Do we also still need Minneapolis? And I would be shocked that a ton of it is O&D at this point anymore.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of it's O&D, but I think a lot of it is regional connecting, which you could backtrack to Detroit, but I don't see them directing that traffic to Seattle or LA, or Atlanta for that matter.
That's fair.
But they're not close enough to send it to the West Coast, the regional flights?
But I just don't think there's enough traffic to justify a 70-seat plane to go from Fargo to Seattle.
No.
Or Fargo to LA.
But is there enough to justify Fargo to Minneapolis? Because some of it continues eastward?
Well, they're using CR2s and E145s on some of those flights still.
Yeah, man, Delta's getting rid of all those 50-seater regionals, man, and they're getting rid of the props. They love their...
No, I mean, last time I was in Minneapolis, that was the most CR2s I've seen.
They're going to replace them all with U-772s at $8 million a piece.
Wait, but why... How many of the Fargo, Minneapolis people are going on to Tokyo?
I don't know. We don't have numbers.
But that's what I'm saying. So why it doesn't?
Fargo is just an example, but there's a ton of small cities that they serve out of Minneapolis
that go on to Tokyo.
So you end up with 50 or 60 people every day from 30 different cities, maybe.
Have you seen the concourse of regional planes of Minneapolis?
Yeah,
I honestly haven't been in Minneapolis in a while. So
it is bigger than probably has more gates than we have in Newark total.
It is the biggest CR2 farm. Yeah, by far I've seen.
So right, but this is an interesting challenge for Delta. They're trying to cut down on 50 seaters. They shuttered Memphis. They shuttered Cincinnati. They're if Minneapolis is where all those planes went, and we're trying to get rid of them, that's where that's where the feed. That's the death knell, right?
But with fuel prices down, is there an urgency to drop the 50 seaters so much? Right, that was a big driver to get rid of the 50 seaters.
Was fuel prices or just
pilot costs?
Pilot costs.
It was both because they were stopped being efficient because of the cost of fuel.
Right. I mean, at this point, there's also just not enough pilots to fly them, so we've got that issue. But there's also not enough pilots to fly the bigger regionals. So.
And the other thing is, it's less about the number of people; it's more about the revenue they bring.
Sure.
Right. I imagine Fargo to Tokyo is not a cheap route like New York to Tokyo.
What is Minneapolis to Tokyo on? Is it on a 744 still?
I think it's still a 744.
Well, also remember Delta's getting rid of them, right? I don't know if that's going to change with fuel prices coming down, but they were working towards a somewhat aggressive retirement schedule on their 744.
Aren't a couple of them near end of life? They've done their...
They're coming up on D-jets.
Yeah, they're not going to...
I think the challenge is the corrosion problem with the engine mounts.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons they're accelerating phasing them out.
I think you just put a fifth engine on, and then you don't have to worry about it if you lose one.
Honda did that recently.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Where was it? It was
Perth
to Joburg.
But Qantas does that all the time, though.
It was a Sydney-Joburg flight. They don't actually operate to Perth. South Africa has that route.
But the fifth.
But because the fifth engine had a drag, they've stopped in Perth and went onward. That's for those who don't know. There actually is built into the 747 extra engine mount for maintenance reasons because for a long time there aren't many aircraft that can carry a 747 engine. There are a couple cargo planes that can do it, but not many. And so Qantas had a 747 go tech in Johannesburg, South Africa, and had to get an engine to it. And there were no 747 engines just hanging out in Johannesburg. So they flew one over.
The question that I have is it cheaper and faster to do that or fly the plane back with no passenger?
I'm not sure they could have with the
run a 3-engine flight as call it a ferry flight.
Yeah.
Do you think an authority would authorize that?
Doesn't need ETOPS certification.
Sure. I think that I still feel like you need an authorization from
if they can
the authority.
Fly a 345 at 8,000 feet from Perth or Melbourne all the way back to Toulouse and get a special dispensation, they should be able to do that for that.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, this isn't the first time Qantas has done this. I feel like they did it to the States once. 5 or 6 years ago, they brought one into LA, maybe.
Which I was surprised because they have a full maintenance base at LA.
It was weird, or I don't know, but there wasn't, or maybe they needed it at JFK, and so they had to whatever.
When you blow an engine. That's
yeah, but like spare parts is you keep engines.
Yeah, at LA, it's big enough that they have always kept.
It depends on what kind of damage you got to the engine, though. If you've got a contained, fan blade that comes loose, that's not that's in write-off. That engine's a write-off.
I understand that, but normally, like, airlines keep spare.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Engines,
I thought you were saying
they had one.
I thought you were saying like reuse it, and it's like
no. Or repair, or you take it out and send it to your repair shop and let them retrofit it. But I was weird that they did it to the States, but I remember it happening once before. So this isn't the first time Qantas has done this in my memory. But anyway, I don't know what the hell we're supposed to be talking about, but this wasn't it.
No, I mean,
Fargo, Minneapolis.
Fargo, Minneapolis. Right.
Which, by the way, if you look up flights, they're all around $1,600 round trip.
Wait, are you producing?
I'm producing. Oh. And the other options are Fargo, Chicago on United or AA.
On a CR2.
Well,
similarly priced?
It's the exact same price, and it's about 45 minutes longer in travel time.
I guess the question is, which one would you rather connect in? I'd rather connect to Minneapolis, personally.
Well, no, but the United will take you via Denver.
Oh.
Ooh, 787.
Yeah.
Extra squeeze and coach.
Oh, extra squeeze.
Extra altitude, extra squeeze. Extra moisture, extra pressure, extra squeeze.
I'd rather go through Minneapolis, personally.
Than Denver?
Yeah. Just for the simple reason, if I was in coach, I wouldn't want to sit on a 787 when I could sit on an A330 or... It's a 744, though?
It is. I'm pretty sure it's 744.
Delta did retrofit their 744, so they're not awful. They're not great, they're not awful.
Not always. I'm looking here, it says A330.
Oh,
like on February 10th, A330.
Maybe they did drop.
And it's a weird
I like the
11:25 departure.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind the A330 in coach.
What time?
11:25 a.m.
It's about right.
Why's that weird?
Yeah,
because you got to leave at 5 a.m. is the connection that they're giving me out of Minneapolis.
That's what I have to do out of Portland to get to San Francisco.
But United, you could leave at 6 and still make it.
Oh, well, that 20 minutes actually at 6 in the morning.
It's an hour.
Yeah.
So, in other news, Emirates is going to start flying an A380 to Dulles.
Yeah, because they got the contracts.
And they're gaming the system a little bit here, right?
So JetBlue got a contract, that's right.
And that's the GSA contract, right?
Yes, government numbers. And United is dropping their Dubai route because of that. Yeah, JetBlue won the federal contract, and it turns out that even with the Fly America Act, code shares count. JetBlue
That's what I don't understand. Why are they allowed to even bid for it?
Because code shares count.
But why?
Because code shares count.
Probably because the intent was code shares count domestically or on other U.S. carriers, like, American,
the U.S. United deal way back in the day.
Yeah, American and Alaska and things like that. And it was probably just a loophole that's being exploited.
It's been around for a long time.
But I don't think it's ever been this egregiously used.
That could be.
So they're using this to justify an A380 to Dulles.
They expect increased demand because there's no other nonstop competition anymore.
And does JetBlue sell code share on nonstop Dulles Dubai?
Yeah.
That to me is the shady part.
Every Emirates flight I've been on is in cooperation with JetBlue, and they named the JetBlue flight.
To me, that seems like the crazy part is that you're selling a code share rather than selling the actual. It's like going to Expedia.com and saying, "Oh, well, it's really an Emirates flight, but we're selling it to you as JetBlue because we realize that you can't fly."
Yeah, but I think
Emirates.
United, if you go to JetBlue though.
But not on I can't go out and buy a Cathay Pacific flight on United, like just by itself.
On American, you could though.
Well, absolutely. But could I buy JFK Hong Kong on American?
I believe so.
Yes.
On American with a CX number.
Yes. It'll give you an AA number
with an AA flight number.
Okay.
Sure.
The airlines can issue other carriers, so you could call United and have them issue a CX flight number. You couldn't get them to issue a UA flight number.
Okay.
Here's the thing.
That makes sense.
On March 8th, you could buy a one-way on Emirates for $869. Oh, it's the wrong flight. But anyways, Houston. I put in Houston instead of Dulles. Houston to Dubai, it's $869 in coach. You could buy a JetBlue flight for $1,300, and it just says operated by Emirates.
Sure, and fuck the U.S. government because you get a discount off of it.
The prices are negotiated. It's a flat rate.
Right.
So it does that price.
That price doesn't. It's either a flat price. Is it a flat price or is it a percentage?
Oh no, I'm saying the government rate. Yeah, but for us, if you're a regular flyer and you go on JetBlue, like JetBlue now flies to Dubai, you're paying almost $400 more, $500 more for flying JetBlue, which you're not really flying. No, if you go nonstop, I just said nonstop. Yeah.
Yeah, they sell them as nonstops. So, no, that's one of the things that's going on with with this new arrangement. And it's not that new, but JetBlue, this is also why JetBlue has been vehemently opposed to, and Alaska also have been vehemently opposed to the Delta United American sort of fight against Emirates, Etihad, and Qatar because they're making money.
So, we were talking about JetBlue and this flight and what they sell because JetBlue is traditionally, aside from Mint, is coach only. Mm-hmm. They do sell business on it.
Sure.
JetBlue sells business.
Yeah.
Did they say Mint?
JCD are the fare buckets they sell on the Dallas-Dubai flight.
It's $10,000 for business class on JetBlue on March 8th.
How much is it on Emirates?
8,700. Okay. They sell F.
I wonder if that's a situation where basically whatever that fare difference is basically JetBlue's cut. And I know and I'm sure it's more complicated.
$400 on a coach.
They don't show. They don't
tell you what the.
I'm saying they don't say. They don't. I try to F and they don't.
Yeah.
It's 19,000 one way if anybody wants to go. Dulles to Dubai in first class on March 8th.
What a bargain.
I'll get the credit card out. You guys want to do a trip report?
Yeah. I'm curious. Which credit card are you going to use and how many points are you going to earn?
Well, we should talk about this. We've had this question come up now with Rollo before about which credit card.
It was a reader question that has never been answered.
Didn't like our answer.
We had a reader question that was never answered. A reader question
about which card. And I think after discussing it today, I think we kind of have an idea, right? You said the City.
You guys are big on the City Prestige card?
The City Prestige card is nice. I've just switched to make that my primary in the last few months. I like the way the airline credit works because it's anything, and you don't have to call. Like with American Express, I'm still chasing my airline credit from last year because it didn't auto-process, and nor did the one from the year before. Mm-hmm. But with Citi, they don't care if it's a plane ticket, change fare, whatever.
It's just the first X dollars off an airline you get.
And you don't have to pick an airline.
Oh,
so
that's nice.
It's really nice in that regards. The thing that I'm really looking at, and I to exploit right now, or use, I should say, is the fourth hotel night free benefit. So it's an interesting benefit in that it's not that they break the cost up and you pay for 3 nights and an average rate, and they give
you don't pay for the average.
You actually pay for what the fourth night is. So last week when I was in Vegas, or 2 weeks ago when I was in Vegas, had I stayed 2 more nights into CES, the first 3 nights would have been $80 a night like I was staying. The fourth night would have been like $800. It would have actually rebated $800.
Yeah.
And so the way it works is you pay for the whole thing and they rebate the fourth night.
Yep.
But you do have to book it through them.
Yes.
But talking to some people who've been using it, it hasn't been a painful process.
No, the booking is reasonable. And there's this random OTA or like club site that has rates that seem to match. And so we can figure it out, sort of what the rates would be versus, because they're not the same exact rates as just going to the hotel website. Right? Because they are an OTA. But there's, I did some snooping around on it. It turns out that it's for things like CES, for New Year's, for special events. It can be tremendously valuable. For just sort of regular day-to-day type stuff, it often isn't. But I feel like we're not going to actually answer this question and come to a conclusion.
So wait, I said the Chase Sapphire card. You said if they're not spending enough, it's not worth the $100 fee.
Well, Seth mentioned the Barclays.
The Barclays. I feel like I'm going to become sort of a pariah for saying this. I feel like for a lot of people, especially at lower spend,
just get cash back.
Cash back. You're probably not traveling enough where you're going to earn enough points to justify. Like, I'm not burning through $100,000 or 100,000 points a year on my card. I'm not getting my family of 4 and coach to somewhere. I'm not getting my 1 business class to Asia or whatever. I'm getting, I was never generating enough spend to do that sort of thing. So in that context, take the cash, just buy the cheaper tickets. If you've got it's really hard for me to say focus on a single airline versus save money every time you go.
To your point, though, if you don't spend a lot of money, it makes no sense because devaluation happens
too quickly,
and aspirational saving for points is just not worth it. In my opinion.
You have to be doing a serious fund. I got into this on HuffPo Live a couple weeks ago with Ben Schlapping. We were talking about the devaluations. And he brought up you have to be able to, if you want to be redeeming for these crazy awards and stuff. I'm like, for most people, you're not putting $100,000 a year on a credit card. I mean, I have reasonable expenses. I get nowhere close to that, including my business.
And now with the death of Bluebird and Serve, that makes it even harder.
I'm still alive. I got mine. Anyone who wants, a little help, I got a Bluebird card sitting in my stock drawer. Have to pull it out for the right broad. Just let me know.
$200,000.
This show is not sponsored by American Express.
And my account will probably be shut down shortly after this episode airs.
So I think the last story is the ANA A380 rumors.
Yeah, that's interesting.
There's a news release out there that someone's going to buy
3 A380s, 4 A380s.
3 is the number. Airbus has early in January. Airbus acknowledged that they now have an unnamed customer for 3 A380s. New customer. These are believed to be these Skymark A380s, which ANA now owns the remnants of Skymark.
What is the backlog on the A380s at this point? Is there
in
much?
terms of pending deliveries?
Yeah, because aren't they near the end of it?
I don't know.
Many. Not many.
I would assume they're close to the end, yeah.
So they're going to get to points where they're going to give them away to keep it alive.
Sure. Although they also claim that they've broken even on the product line, so now anything else they sell is gravy.
Yeah, but would you think they would just shut it down? No.
That's what happens when you no longer have orders.
Yeah, but it would be looked at as a failure. Then even they could say they broke even all they want. They're not just going to be like, all right, here, thank you, that's it, it's over.
Okay, we've been to the Airbus factory. It's hard to know when they are making them and when they're not.
It's true. Well, to be fair, we were there on a weekday and there's still no employees around.
We saw three employees, four planes and 3 employees.
You know, it was Toulouse. There was a line break going on mid-manufacturing. No, that's true. It was hard to tell. Their output rate isn't that low for the 380, but it is a challenge. It's unclear. There's still the rumor of the stretch or not. I was at the Dubai Air Show a couple months ago, and the guys who make the engines, it's Engine Alliance, I guess, is some sort of partnership group of different companies, Airbus and someone else, Rolls maybe?
Probably Rolls-Royce, yeah.
So the Engine Alliance guy was like, yeah, we don't see any need for a hybrid. We've got some software improvements coming up that are going to increase efficiency 2 or 3% kind of thing. They think that they can basically continue to tweak the existing 380 to get the benefit that they're looking for. The value of the stretch is, if you can fill it, CASM comes down even further, putting aside the fuel efficiency, because...
How do you fill it?
Ask Emirates.
Emirates wants to fill one with 500 people almost.
Right. Emirates has 615 seats on their 2 cabin on the dash, the Dash 8 version, the 800 version.
But look at where they're flying them, right? And look at the way they're pricing those seats. That has a lot to do with it.
You fill it by, quote-unquote, dumping inventory, but you have the big plane, so it's not really dumping.
But does it make sense to invest in a whole new set of planes to do that?
I don't think so. I think that the stretch is a bad idea, but I haven't looked at all the numbers in intricate detail. But here's the thing. Emirates was arguably the pioneer of the sort of multiple carriers within a single airplane concept. They run an LCC down the back, and they run a premium product up front. And they charge premium rates.
They charge LCC prices, but the service and coach is not LCC. Like, you get drinks for free, the food's pretty good.
Okay, yes.
So it's kind of like, let's price it at LCC.
But they can afford to do that because planes that big have lower CASM.
But let's be real, they're making their money on the premium cabins.
I think there's a little bit of both.
I'm sure they're making some money in the economy, but they don't need to make a lot of money in the economy.
Sure, that'll get. Yeah, but I don't think economy is a lost leader to try to move customers up to business class.
No, but
they oversell economy constantly. That's they sell and sell and sell, and they just use the big plane, whatever empty seats, they just upgrade, and it's.
And they can do that for the frequent flyers. They can opt up people. But a lot of their business model is move that massive volumes of people at cheap fares, but it's okay because their costs are low. And part of the reason the costs are low is because they have the big planes.
Oh, I get all that, but does it make sense to introduce another frame type which complicates your logistics and planning?
I don't think so, but I don't know.
Now, do we think Airbus might make a freighter version?
They tried it at one point.
I don't think they can make it work distance-wise.
The capacity was shit.
But I think there's a lot of...
Also, freight market is much more variable than passenger even.
And the other thing
it's been feeling serious pressures lately.
Well, the other thing, too, though, is that the A380 cannot land on all the runways where a 748 or a 744 can land. That's a huge problem.
Especially for freight.
For freight. I mean, they're putting 748s into airports where an A380 doesn't have the wingspan clearance to make the turns.
Yeah, no, the 748 has plenty of its own struggles, but getting in with...
I'm not sure an A380 could actually land at Anchorage, a cargo A380 could land at Anchorage, and be able to clear the cargo ramp because of how wide it is. Like, how big the wingspan is.
Yeah, I don't know.
It'd be interesting to get a pilot.
We know a few pilots that fly through Anchorage pretty often, so we could get them on.
I assume you do. You said we, and I pointed.
Well, I knew
who you're talking about.
Our
team,
yeah. We'll get our producer to make that call.
But back to the A380 though, for A&A.
Yeah.
Do you think?
So there's 3 unnamed planes are assumed to be ANAs.
And do you think that's actually them? I mean, it makes sense from the Skymark perspective that it's them.
It makes sense from the Skymark perspective that it's them. The first report on this came out of Japanese. Nikkei, okay, and suggested that they were going to use them for Haneda, Honolulu to up their capacity there because that market is so strong. And believe it or not, that's one of the top 10
destinations or
routes? Top 10 routes in the world by ASMs.
Well, it's one of the ones we've talked about where it's like random carriers, like Korean. China Airlines flies Tokyo.
Korean Flight 1.
Yeah, Korean Flight 1 is Tokyo to...
Flight 1 is Tokyo to Honolulu, yeah.
So if ANA dumps a A380 on it, will United and Delta start protesting Japanese aviation authorities as well?
Well, no, because they're not subsidized. It's not government subsidy.
Well, they might claim Airbus is subsidizing that flooding.
That's a different problem.
Which is,
private subsidy.
Also, you have the situation where for United, that's a joint venture route, so it seems unlikely United's going to protest that too much. Although United might get pissy with them about dumping the capacity and pulling. Maybe United wants that and they'll pull their own metal out.
Maybe.
Bringing pain and suffering to hundreds of Flyer Talk members.
I don't know if that's the case, though, because there's a lot of government traffic on that route.
So you think they'd keep it?
Yeah.
Put a code share on it. Code share's down.
Yeah. I don't know if they want to play that game, but if they're protesting the Dubai thing, I don't know if that would be the right thing.
And it could be a move by...
I don't know. American bitches all they want about Etihad, Qatar, and Emirates, and then puts their flight numbers on all the Etihad flights, so...
It could be a move, though, to by ANA to say, we want the other carriers out if we flood the market with cheap tickets.
Yeah, are they trying to push out Korean and
China Airlines, and I think even Asiana flies that route.
I don't know. It's a weird one. Also, Honolulu doesn't have A380 gates right now.
Can you imagine air stairs to the A380 in Honolulu?
That'd be awesome. I'm also not sure Haneda has an A380 gate.
I don't think so.
I don't think so, yeah.
I don't think it does, but I presumably it was A380 capable. Like, I have to assume Honolulu is A380 capable, just don't have a gate built.
Yeah, they can use the runways there. I mean, there's no taxiway that's next to any of the runways, really.
Yeah, so I presume it's okay, but that's an interesting situation. But I know there's no gate at Honolulu. I'm not sure about Haneda.
What's interesting to me is that Haneda for Lufthansa, you guys flew Tokyo to Frankfurt or Frankfurt to Tokyo on Lufthansa, with no pants, right? But that got downgraded to a 748 for Haneda. So Frankfurt Haneda is now a 748.
Wait, but they got rid of Narita and went to Haneda?
Narita is now a 744.
Oh wow.
So
which is two cabin.
So it's interesting, like that they're putting their premium traffic to Haneda.
Absolutely.
Well, that's where everybody wants to go.
It's much more convenient if you're going into town, and with the exception of the U.S. carrier flight times, they're actually quite reasonable for connecting to.
Well, and my point with that was, is Haneda actually A380 capable? Excuse me.
I don't know.
And because they downgraded it. Like if there was if there was enough traffic to feed Haneda with an A380, why wouldn't they just keep it on there?
I don't think it's capable.
No.
We know there's no gates, but is it like runway capable?
I have to look at the layout.
It landed there during one of the tour flights in 2010. The 380 has been there.
Okay. So I think it's ANA that's buying the A380. I don't think there's any.
I don't know who else would.
Skybus.
Maybe they fly to New York.
Viva Airbus.
Huh?
Would they fly to New York?
I don't think so. I think they're going to use it for their high density stuff. They love that high density stuff.
No, Air France is bringing the 380 to Haneda, so there must be a gate.
Okay. Well, there we go. Proven wrong.
Fair.
But I guess in the case of Lufthansa, if they were going to keep flights to both Haneda and...
Then they have double load.
Yeah.
No, they were hoping it would accept the 380. It may not actually be live. I'm doing a very bad job of producing. I'm sorry, Mr. Producer.
Well, our producer's
I don't want to. I can't look it up and affect our recording.
Yeah,
so.
he is using his computer for our recording.
I guess the other possibility would be Asiana's bottom, but they said it's a new customer, and Asiana already has them.
Yeah. No, it doesn't surprise me that ANA is going to get them, and it may have been a deal as part of the financing for the sort of merger stuff, or not merger, but the buyout of Skymark and getting, like, that was debt that Airbus had to forgive.
Yep.
So, at some point, that had to happen, but, I don't know.
But does ANA operate any other Airbuses?
No. It's 777-300s.
76s,
276. They have some 200s. They have 787s, both types.
And 73s.
And some 3s.
So that would be a completely new...
They may operate some A321s.
They used to have 300s, but I don't think they...
I think they might have some A321s. Let me see real quick. Hang on.
Singapore's Haneda service is not A380. For what that's worth, despite the press release having 380 in it.
Yeah, they operate a 3. Let's see here.
So anyway, I think it's going to be ANA. It's going to be a little weird to have a 3-plane sub-fleet.
ANA has ordered 321s with sharklets.
Neos.
They've ordered them.
They've ordered them, and they've got
A320. But the A320s were phased out. They had A320s.
Yeah.
They dropped them for the 73s, or for shouldn't they use them locally? They were flying 777s and 500C or 400C configurations domestically.
Well, they also fly those 76s sort of
domestically in the high density config.
I did one to Osaka to Hong Kong on ANA last
Are
time.
those the ones you can't redeem on? What's the whole United? There's certain routes.
They had 320s and 321s. They've gotten rid of them.
But they ordered
321 Neos are coming back. No, Air Japan you can redeem on.
Oh, you can?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird though because I'm not sure you can't redeem business on some of those. Like they're high density business but they only have 8 seats or something ridiculous. Like it's 2 rows of
And it's not that it's prohibited, it's just that there's never seats.
There's never seats, yeah. And so it's just like coach and they're tight.
Yeah. I got the exit row on my Osaka Hong Kong flight, so it was reasonable, but it was exit with a hard bulkhead.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've done ANA coach a couple times. It's not
for the length of flight that you're going to be on for most of intra-Japan. It's
intra-Japan and even over to China is usually quite reasonable. From Honolulu or to Hong Kong is
a little much,
a little tighter.
Yeah,
or a little less comfortable for the tightness. Anyway,
I think that wraps up the show.
I think since you've said that, it wraps up the show.
That's what I'm trying to do here. We got dinner to go to.
You gotta go drinking more.
And so let's go around the table real quick. We're actually literally around a table.
Yes,
a round table.
A round table. Rollo, go ahead.
You can find me on Alphabet.
Your sarcasm is lost on the audience.
Sorry. You could still find me on Tumblr, so mundosurfer.tumblr.com and Twitter @mundosurfer.
I thought they had taken Tumblr offline.
Yeah. We've heard it might be sold, but it's still online. Still on the line.
You can find me on Twitter as FozM.
I'm Steve Seagraves. You can find me on Twitter @SCgraves if you spell it right. And on
Twitter correctly.
badheist.com.
This is Seth. You can find me at WANDRME on Instagram and Twitter, or WANDR.me for my website.
And you can follow Dots, Lines, and Destinations on Twitter @DotsLines or on our website, moredotsmorelines.com.
Have a great trip.
Bye. Take care, everybody.